Hello and welcome to the Alternative Sports Show powered by Verge Magazine. I'm your host, Andre Dixon. I'm joined by my friend, my pal, Daniel Falui. How are you, sir?
I'm well, mate. I'm well. It's Wednesday. Can't wait for Thursday night football. Can't wait for the weekend. Yeah, just, not much going forward to outside of sports right now.
I mean, I feel like we just literally, because the game went on so late our time, I feel like we just finished watching the Saints and the Rams. The Saints and the Raiders. Literally, because I feel like that game went on forever. So I'm losing time and space conundrum here as well. But obviously, for those who watch All Sport and the SportsHeads, you usually see us on the hurry up. But we have got a special edition today because we have a special guest, Hannah Wilkes. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, guys. Thanks for having me on. It's great to be with you.
Now, Hannah is one of the faces, or to me, the face of Sky Sports NFL. Sorry, Neil.
I was going to say, don't let Neil. No, I can't do that. Is Neil. That is Neil.
Neil knows I love him. But it's really great to have you on because we're so excited about there being a dedicated, Sky Sports NFL channel for us sports heads. Crazy nuts who live and breathe on our NFL content.
Yeah, absolutely. We are too. I still can't quite believe it happened. I mean, the nature of these things is obviously there's a lot of people working behind the scenes on it, but for most of us, we don't hear about it till it's right, it's done, it's happening. So it launched on the 3rd of September, so we're only about 3 weeks in to having the channel. There's been nothing else on in my house, I'll admit, since then. And it's so exciting. I mean, it's great for NFL fans in the UK because it's just growing and growing and growing. And the fact that now, throughout the season, you can see it 24/7 on 407. It's just great. And it's great to be a part of it. It's great to get some of the great shows across as well from NFL Network. So I'm loving having Good Morning Football as my sort of 12 till 3 viewing every day. Plus everything else we do as well on the channel, the live games. Thursday night inside the huddle, Tuesday night with overtime. It's just great. It's it's redeemed 2020 for me.
Yeah. It's made it slightly better. It's like it's something nice for us to be able to look forward to. I am absolutely jealous because last time I saw that you were speaking to Kay Adams, who is my fave.
Kay has a little secret crush on Kay Adams.
Don't we all? Like, I was like, when the producer said to me, he was like, got Kay Adams on Tuesday. And I was like, Paddy, I don't know if I'm going to be able to be professional. I'm just going to fangirl because she's so good at what she does. She is so knowledgeable. And she was absolutely brilliant. She's so busy as well. And she took time out of her day to come and be projected on a giant screen. And yeah, she was brilliant. So hoping that we'll be able to get her back on in future. And she gave some really good fantasy football tips that I'm not going to lie, I immediately put into practice this morning. I was on the waiver wire and mixing up my team based on what Kay had said.
I'm telling you, like, go on.
On the fantasy right now, aren't you, Dre? He's 2-0.
Yeah, I'm 2-0. Yeah, we're both. Well, actually, to be honest, we've got. Not that anyone cares about what we do, but like
no one cares about your. No one. The only person that cares about your lineup is you. But.
Yeah, exactly. We've got a bit of a clash of the Titans, the clash of the undefeateds coming up on Sunday. Now, when we get big enough for it to be, live streamed, then I'm more than happy to. But just think of me and him on Sunday, literally just thinking, because our lineups, as we discussed, has been decimated with injuries.
Yeah.
As everyone's has been, and fingers crossed we can get through it. But I've got Russell Wilson; he hasn't, so I'm all right.
We'll get into that. Don't worry.
Yeah, I think Russell Wilson was probably about 5th, wasn't he, in MVP rankings this week? So, or maybe a bit lower. I was looking
he should
at
be number 1. He really should be number 1.
I mean, he's an only season contender from MVP, but it doesn't always translate when it comes to fantasy, does it?
Obviously, that's it. We got to have you back all the time. Like, you're already saying more knowledgeable stuff than everyone else that's been on this channel.
Oh, wow, thank you.
Oh, sorry, Baldy. Not you.
You have Baldy on?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, okay.
Yes,
I can't compete with that.
Who of NFL is on this channel?
I'm honoured. Thank you for having me on. I'm in great company then.
Before I start, getting your knowledge and all the things about NFL and the current situations, just so I can adjust my fantasy lineup all the time. How have you been coping with obviously everyone being stuck indoors and socially distanced and all those things? How have you been coping off season?
it's a roller coaster, isn't it? I think that's the one way to describe it. Generally, I'm okay. I cannot complain. I am still gainfully employed. Everyone I know and love has stayed healthy. So very, very fortunate and very, very lucky. So cannot complain. But yeah, it's a bit draining, isn't it? It's like up and down, up and down. I've moved my wedding twice. So it's
Really?
Yeah, twice.
Have you had the wedding yet? Or
No, still not had it. And obviously then yesterday they reduced numbers again. So we're next May now, but you're still like, we've got to basically rank our favourite people in order of who might make the cut. But no, so yeah, that's obviously a bit stressful, but there's so many people in that sort of situation, and so many people in really worse boats than us. But yeah, I think peak lockdown, I'm not going to lie, there was part of me that quite enjoyed it. Everything stopped.
Yeah.
I was still working, but working from home, kind of not much, there wasn't much you could do. And when it came to weekends, I was like, to begin with, completely confused by the fact that there was no sport to watch. I was like, well, what do I do?
What do we do?
But
Yeah.
I sat outside in the sunshine, because thankfully it was sunny, wasn't it? And I read books, and I just chilled out, and I rediscovered the art of doing nothing, which is not something I've done much of the last few years.
Hannah, it's us. So, yeah. I know you was watching Netflix the whole time, so
obviously I watched Tiger King. Obviously.
That's what I'm talking about, you see?
Yeah, there was a Tiger King stage, wasn't it? You look back now and think, in a normal year, would I ever sat and given that, 8 hours of my life watching that? Probably not. But yes, I have to say, grand scheme of things, it's not been too bad, but I think it's taken its mental toll on all of us, because it's just this ongoing weirdness, isn't it? So hopefully we'll, get through the next, hopefully less than 6 months or so, but,
Well, we'll be okay until February, because obviously we've got football, and it's strange. It's strange now. We've got to the point of when someone scores a touchdown and you see fans jumping. Like, you're like, oh, what are you doing there? Get out!
Yeah, I'm a bit envious. Yeah, and Dallas as well. They had fans, and you just kind of think, oh, we want that. But I have to say, with the way they film the games, and with the crowd effects, which I think they've really learned from the Premier League over here as to how to do it well, you kind of forget, don't you? I mean, they've even been booing, I think it was last week,
Carson Wentz
was being booed by the Eagles fans. I was like, whoever is in that sound booth is enjoying the power that they've got. So it feels real, and it's, and you're right, it's such a great escape. I remember earlier in the summer when people were like, oh, the season going to start on time? Will we get an NFL season? And I just kept saying, NFL, nothing will stop the NFL from happening. It is this huge organization. It's got so much money. It is worth so much money. They will make it happen no matter what. We still they're doing so well testing at the moment, and it's unbelievable how few positive tests they've had when you think of the numbers of people involved in the sport. But there's probably going to come to a point where, there's some big names that test positive, or the rest of it, or depending what happens, the sort of second waves over there, you don't know. We might not see every single game scheduled to be played. But it's always going to happen, and it's such a great escape to normality. Sundays feel normal, and for that I'm eternally grateful.
Honestly, we well, especially last weekend, like when we saw people dropping like flies every 2 seconds, it made it also more entertaining, but like a little bit more stressful this week. So first question that I've got is, because the NFL have recorded the highest, really not the highest, if not highest, seriously high number of injuries in the first 2 games. Do you think that that's down to the lack of preseason? Do you reckon that factors on with all the injuries that we've had on the pitch?
My gut reaction to it when they were literally dropping like flies on Sunday, the early games on Sunday especially, my sort of reaction was, this has got to be because of shortened training camps. Don't forget, in training camp as well, the first week and a half, it was all sort of testing and getting protocols in, and they weren't doing the sort of routine of how they build up training camps as to how they usually would. There were no sort of OTAs or no mini camps. So my thought was, this is a combination of training camps and no preseason games. And then you look at the people, you look at the injuries as well. There's a lot of ACLs going, and an ACL will go if it wants to go, whether you've been preseason training or not. It's one of those injuries, isn't it? Sometimes they just break, they just snap. And I do think, I'm obviously not an expert. I think that the lack of training camp, or the shortened training camp, and the lack of preseason maybe has a little bit to do with it, but also American football is a very physical, very aggressive on the body sport. You're always going to get injured. There's, find me a player that goes through an NFL career without a single injury. I mean, most people
used to be McCaffrey. Used to be
McCaffrey. As I say that, I'm pretty sure I'm thinking, Russell Wilson missed a game start. But you know what I mean? It's one.
Don't jinx that now.
It's one of those sports where you are going to get injured. So I think it's very easy to say this is why, and like a preseason is why. But that may have been a small factor, but I don't think it's entirely to blame, just because of the nature of the sport and the nature of the injuries we're seeing.
All right. Yeah, no, I mean, for me, I've torn my ACL. I was playing American football linebacker. All I can say, my theory is that obviously the body, it's so easy to train your body to start to go, but you need to be able to stop-start. American sport is a very stop-start sport. And so when you're stopping a lot of the time, that's where injuries occur. And so when you see, like kind of said, the lack of training, the lack of OTAs, the lack of proper preseason, all these veteran guys that have come out and said they don't want preseason, I think that argument is now out the window. It's now blown out the window. You're going to have some sort of preseason. It's going to be either one game or two games, but you got to have something like that just to put the stress back on the body to naturally get it back to speed, because NFL speed to preseason speed is completely different, and it goes from 0 to 100 really quickly. So you're going to need to have some form of implementation for that. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, because I think there needs to be preseasons for next season. I think you can't have the same thing again. And, it's not just injuries to standard C-level players. No offense to the guys out there, because anyone who's playing NFL is you're a great athlete, but you're getting the Nick Bolsas, you're getting the Jimmy G's, you're getting the C-Max, and all these guys are getting injured. So these are quite notable names, and Saquon Barkley as well. So obviously, look, Shannon Sharp's come out and basically said, he thinks he's not the only one. He thinks that Cam is a better fit for the Patriots than Tom Brady. Now, given the way they've started, Cam is 1-on-1, Tom Brady is 1-on-1, but Cam has, basically looked really sharp. He's looked really impressive. Julian Edelman's got the highest number of yards, receiving yards in the game last season as well, which is crazy when he's had Tom Brady. Hannah, do you think right now that Cam is the better fit for the Patriots than Tom Brady?
Oh, wow. That's a big question. I don't think you can really compare. We've seen 2 weeks of Cam Newton playing for the Patriots compared to 20 years of Tom Brady. And what I will say is I think Cam Newton looks fantastic. I think Josh McDaniel and Bill Belichick have really they're really playing to his strengths. If you look at how much they ran the ball, especially in week 1 against the Dolphins, they barely threw it. They're really playing to his strengths, and they definitely brought sort of Cam's playing style and how he plays the game and how he played with the Panthers into their playbook, which I think is of benefit to all of them, because you've got to make your team work for your quarterback and vice versa. And I don't think you can compare at all. I mean, they're definitely entertaining. I think they're probably a little bit, for me personally, a little bit more entertaining to watch, just because I've always loved the way Cam Newton plays the game. He's so physical. Love the way he runs. You kind of, you never really know what he's going to do. And for me, that makes a really entertaining quarterback to watch. But I don't think you can say there's a better fit, because Tom Brady got 6 Super Bowl rings. So how can you compare those two, especially 2 years in? Hey, if Cam Newton plays for the Patriots the next 10 years and they win 4 or 5 Super Bowls, or even 1, then we can have that discussion. I mean, a better fit is so you mold your team around your quarterback. Your team should fit your quarterback, and that is what they are doing so well in New England now. If you put Tom Brady and get the way they're playing with Cam Newton, it definitely wouldn't work. Like it's playing to those strengths. But I think Cam looks fantastic. I really do. I think it's fun to watch. And him going up against Russell Wilson this week was just entertainment from start to finish. It was such a great game. So yeah, I think the Patriots are looking good. I think Cam clearly buys into the Patriots ethos and how they want to play the game. But it is only 2 weeks, and I love to go ridiculously over the top based on nothing. I'm one for a hot take. But I just think, let's have the conversation again in 14 weeks' time and see where we are. But the way they're playing now, then yes, they're 1-1, but it was a close game on Sunday, and it spun on a hairpin, really.
Right. So I'm going to ask, because if you don't know, Hannah, Dre's like the #1 super fan of Cam Newton.
Okay.
What? I say that in jest. Cam and Dre have a love-hate relationship at the moment right now. So, Dre, I'm going to actually ask you that question. Being as you are, quote-unquote, Cam Newton's basically number one super fan. How are you impressed with Cam Newton so far into the season?
Yeah, I mean, I was, I was questioning whether he's going to be healthy enough to be able to, act as Cam and the Cam that we all know, on the field, and love on the field, love it, his all action type of play. So literally, he's come back and it looks like he's not been, he's not been injured at all, so he hasn't missed a beat. What I do worry about is that he doesn't look like he's learned from his mistakes regarding, taking a beating from some of these linebackers. Like, they are pretty much like, all right, you're protected here in your pocket, but if you keep on dropping your shoulder, then we're going to treat you like a running back and beat you down. And obviously, as you guys know, the life of running back is not long, especially with the quarterback as well, because he shouldn't be doing some of these 1 yard, 2 yard, 3 yard dives unnecessarily. He doesn't slide like Russell. I can see that Russell Wilson would have a longer career, and he hasn't been injured. We've had to kind of question whether Russell's actually been injured at all, because he makes sure that he doesn't. Start. Yeah, I mean, I don't want you jinxing me, Hannah, because I need him right now. He's the only Band-Aid.
Man, I need him. We need him.
He's the little sellotape that's holding my team together. But I'm impressed with what he does. With the fact that he's so mobile and it doesn't look like he's injured. His injuries have actually hampered him. But I do worry about the fact that he's gonna get rocked at some point by one of these big boys and take him out of the game, for a longer period of time than last.
That's kind of fair, because you think that last play where they didn't get him over the line for the touchdown against Seattle on Sunday, they completely flipped him over. Someone missed the block and he flipped over. Do you think that's going to take its toll on your body? Yeah. But also, I think he kind of proved on Sunday that his arm is fine, because I don't know whether it was just clever Belichick scheming, looking at the schedule, but in week 1 against the Dolphins, he barely threw the ball. And then on Sunday, he threw for almost 400 yards. So I think that's sort of, there's stuff there that he's looking like he's still the Cam Newton that was pre-injuries across the board, run game and pass game. And if you look at how his stats are lining up, I guess it's only 2 weeks and one of those games with the Dolphins, but take these with a pinch of salt. But if you look at how his stats are from those 2 games and how that projects in terms of passer rating, completions, yards made, all the rest of it, he's on track for leveling, if not bettering, his sort of MVP season, which is a very bold statement to make 2 weeks in. That can go completely wrong.
That's Hannah's hot take there. We got it. Hannah's predicted.
I'm not predicting anything. I'm just saying, if you look at the numbers and the projections, and I am not a mathematician, I'm just doing this with what I see, then he's on track for a great season if he stays healthy, if he keeps it up.
So, I think Hannah's got a point there, to be fair. And Andre, I do appreciate what you said about sort of Cam Newton, but I think you have to look at Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick he plays to what the defense gives him. Miami couldn't stop the run, so they ran the ball. Seattle don't have a pass rush, so what does he do? He passes the ball with Cam Newton. And so he plays basically the strength. So if they play next week and the team can't stop the run, they'll go for the run. If the team can't rush Cam, they'll throw as well. So I'm actually not that worried, because I think Bill Belichick will put the pieces in place, and he's the greatest coach of all time. So he'll put pieces in place and he will read the defense and allow to sort of utilize that. Now, moving on, one of the biggest games of the weekend was Atlantic Falcons versus the Dallas Cowboys. We all know how that went, 21-10 at half, to then the Cowboys winning miraculously over on doesn't really happen, doesn't materialize. Now, the owner of the Falcons, after Blank, has basically come out and said his players didn't know what they were doing with the onside kick. They didn't know the rule. Whereas the manager has now come out, head coach, I should say, has come out, Dan Quinn, and said, no, his players did know the rules. Now, for me, that's a red flag, because there's a disconnect somewhere, whether it's with the owner or the head coach. So, Hannah, do you think Dan Quinn still deserves to be the head coach of the Atlantic Falcons? And if so, is there any way for them to save their season? I know it's only 2 weeks in.
Everything's caveated with that at this point, is it? Only 2 weeks in. I think Dan Quinn's probably in the hot seat. I think that's fair to say. Like you said, that sort of difference in messaging between him and the owner is always a bit of a concern. Usually you want to be singing from the same hymn sheet. 7-9 last season, so starting at 0-2 is not what you want. That said, I think if you look at the nature of the game on Sunday, I mean, the Falcons yes, essentially they blew it. They scored 39 points. They didn't turn over the ball. They are the only team to have done that and lost since records began. You do not want to be that team. When it comes down to it, though, the Cowboys got that win through some really smart play calling. Really smart. I don't know what Mick McCarthy said at half time either, because it was like a different team the last two quarters. But it was really smart play calling. That onside kick was designed to bamboozle, and it did. And I have watched it endlessly. I've never seen so many players standing looking at a ball. And the likelihood is yes, those players will have known the rules. Of course they do. They're professional football players. They know the rule book. But in that scenario, when you've never seen anything like it before, and don't forget as well, those guys at the front that get that ball first, they're there to block. They're not usually recovering balls or whatever. They are there to block and cause chaos further up the field and stop the kicking team returning the ball. That is not their wheelhouse at all. So it's very easy to just go, how do they not know the rules? They're staring at this ball. But it's genius play calling, and that's the fine margin. So if I was the Falcons, I mean, they had a couple of opportunities where they could have put that game to bed in the fourth quarter, and they did stop a 2-point conversion attempt from Dallas earlier on in that fourth quarter. It's one of those things, isn't it? They are 0-2. Does that really count as a full loss? I mean, yes, they lost the game, but it's when you look through a coach's sort of resume of how they've lost and what they've lost and the details of it. I mean, some bad game management cost them in week 1 as well. If I was Dan Quinn, I'd be nervous. I'd be hoping they get it done this week. I haven't got it in front of me. I can't remember off the top of my head who they play week 3. But they can turn around this season. They're 0-2. So many teams that start 0-2 have made the playoffs in the past. There's no reason it can't be done. And they're in a division, the NFC South, which is fairly wide open. There isn't any 2-0 teams in that division. Panthers are also 0-2. Tampa and Saints are 1-1. So these things, they can turn quite quickly here.
I agree with you. Had it not been the Super Bowl debacle, in which they basically, gave up, I think, what was it, 25-3 or 28-3. So this is the second time it's happened. There is a track record that you can't win out your games, and that's a bit scary.
True. If you're a Falcons fan, I imagine it is the most frustrating thing in the absolute world. And yeah, it's game management, isn't it? You've got to manage these games better. You've got to close these games out. But that's why we love the sport as well, because it turns so quickly.
What about you, Dre? What's your take?
Blow up this team. Because it's
no respect for Matt Ryan, please.
Because you know what, the reason why I say that is obviously you got to start looking towards the future. Matt Ryan's not getting any younger. You've got the team is an older team who's banged and bruised. The way that Dan Quinn has been played, there's people like Devontae Freeman, who's like pretty much everyone's favorite running back a little while, a couple of seasons ago, is now not around. I just think that sometimes, because I said yesterday in our show on our podcast, I think it reminds me of the Jeff Fisher end of the Rams, where it's getting a bit stale. It's the same old things keep on happening, and then you need some new breath, a new life, and a new direction. It's the same thing happened with the Panthers. It's like you can only keep on going down that road so many times. So if and it's highly unlikely that there's not a miraculous season, like something that they can hang their hat on. I just think that you got to blow this team up, because it's just literally, or at least get rid of Quinn, because it's just, where's it going?
Me, I don't know if I will blow up the team. I think that the team's great.
I wouldn't. It's a bit extreme.
Thank you very much. Julio Jones is one of the best wide receivers in the game. That guy is a bad player, awful. But then you also got Calvin Ridley. You got Matty Ice as well, and he's great. And the defense isn't bad. It's just Dan Quinn. The thing with the Falcons actually hasn't been the offense. They've been ranked top 10 offense in the last 5 seasons. It's their defense, which is a bit shocking considering that Dan Quinn has come from the Seattle tree, Pete Carroll, and that Legion of Boom, and so he can't really get the defense right. So I think for me, it screams that he's not necessarily the best head coach. Game management, as Hannah said, isn't great. I think it needs to move more to get someone who can reshape that defense, because they've got some studs on defense as well, and maybe turn that around.
Yeah, it's just the thing is that you need a new direction sooner rather than later. So yeah, obviously I'm in jest. I think obviously you're going to do it now. Sorry, Atlanta Falcons fans, please don't start at me. But I think that what you've got to look at is, and I'm very sure that they're thinking the same things, like where is this going? And it's the same thing that we had. Obviously I'm a suffering Giants fan at the moment, but it's like at some point you have to try something different. And obviously be careful what you wish for, because it could get worse. But there's always that upside, and that's what I think, that they've got enough pieces for you to be able to add a new dimension, new schemes, just something that is not just like Julio Jones or nothing, or Calvin Ridley or nothing.
You get the sense that it's sort of last chance saloon a little bit for Dan Quinn, and the fact that they signed Todd Gurley on a 1-year deal for both Gurley and the team. It's kind of like, This is the year, this is kind of potentially the last year with all these parts. Then you do look at a reset, because if you sign someone like Gurley and you believe that he's healthy and the sign's been quite good, I suppose, first 2 weeks, but like definitely not bad, then it looks like, okay, that's a 1-year deal. Bring that in, see how we go. Yeah, I'd be nervous if I was Dan Quinn. There are a few coaches that even after a couple of weeks you think, oh, it might be getting a little bit hot.
Yeah, that seat's getting hot. Definitely, that's for sure. Now, Hannah, you've already showed us that you know far, far, far more about NFL than all of us, the mere mortals. How did you actually get into NFL? How did you get into NFL in the first place?
So it's a strange one, actually. It's a sport that I suppose, like, relatively speaking, although she looks at sort of the dates, it's like relatively new. I didn't grow up watching it. I actually didn't get into NFL until I started working at Sky. So I started working at Sky as a runner, which is like, you make the tea, you do the photocopying, you literally run around getting stuff to people. And the first sort of autumn I was working for Sky, I was a runner on one of the Wembley games. In fact, it was the Wembley game at the time, because there was only one a year then. And actually got loaned out. Fox were over broadcasting for the back in the States. So I got loaned out to Fox to be their runner for the day. And it was amazing, because I was up sort of on gantry level in one of the suites that they turn into studios. And the Fox guys wanted for nothing. And Kai said to me, "Oh, do you like the sport?" And I was like, "I'll be honest, I don't really know. I don't really know much about it." Like, he goes, "I would try, but I can't blag this." It's like, I mean, yeah, I guess, but I don't really know much about it. So I got my first lesson about American football from 3-time Super Bowl winner Darryl Johnston. And if that doesn't convert you to a sport whilst watching the Bucks and the Bears go at it at Wembley, what will? So yeah, that was sort of my intro to it. And it's just a love that has grown and grown from there, because I grew up watching a lot of rugby. So that sort of the physicality of it immediately appeals. I love the scheming. I love the sort of tactics of it. And I love that it's one of those sports that the more you get into it, the more you learn about it, the more there is to know. There is so much to it. It's endlessly fascinating to me. And yeah, I just love it. It was just it's quite exciting, isn't it, when you come to a sport when I was 21? You get this new sport in your life. And so yeah, that was how I got into it. Yeah.
What other sports do you follow?
Oh, I mean, I won't lie. I don't meet many sports I don't like. So I grew up watching a lot of rugby and Formula One with my mum and dad. I covered netball for Sky, and I played it as well. Not at a high level, but I'm a tall girl, of course, played netball. Loved that. Absolutely loved being part of that team. Also football, of course. I mean, I'm lucky. I get to do. I mean, NFL takes up a lot of my time. Netball in non-pandemic years also takes up a lot of my time. But I'm really lucky because I get to work across the spectrum. And I basically love all sports. I think I won't name them, but I can think of maybe like 1 or 2 sports that haven't converted me when I've actually given them some time.
Hannah hates cricket. That's what she said there.
I never said that. And that is actually factually incorrect. I'll take it to the grave.
Hannah's not mentioned football, normal football. So me.
Oh, no, I do like normal football. I thought that was in there. Yeah, normal football is in there. Proud Northampton girl, born and bred.
Right.
Yeah, literally, like I say, across the spectrum. So I get to work on everything. I watch everything. Yeah, very.
As long as it's not Man United like him, then that's we're all good.
What's wrong with United?
We're all good. That's it. We're friends.
So Hannah, who's your NFL team then? I'm
a Rams fan. Yeah.
Wow.
You guys are really surprised at that.
Well, you know what? You don't really meet many Rams fans. So, but
no, you don't. You should go to a
Time to
Super Bowl
spot.
when they're playing. It's like spotting, I don't know, a unicorn if you see a Rams fan. No. Oh, they moved around a lot, haven't they? So, I mean, like I say, it's a sport I came to sort of, not late in life, but, you know, didn't grow up with it. So as I got into it more and more, I was like, right, I need to like pick a team. And I tried on a few different teams and then never felt quite right. I guess is the way to go. I tried to be a Patriots fan, but I couldn't. Just couldn't do it. I tried to be a Green Bay fan, which was there like my second team. And then my friend, one of my like really good like oldest friends, she lives out in the States and she's a Pittsburgh fan, and she told me in no uncertain terms that I'm not allowed to be a Packers fan. I was like, okay, I'll take that. Yeah, so I was like, you know, flip-flopping around. And then as they were moving back to LA and there was an all or nothing doco on them, like watched that, got into it. Okay, they need fans, they're moving. I've been to LA a couple of times. This works. So yeah, it was a good time to get into, to become a Rams fan, because obviously 2-3 years after that they're in the Super Bowl, and we won't talk about
I mean, I'm telling you, like they are. I chose them because my Giants have been doing terribly for the last few years. So literally, I've had to find a bandwagon team to be able to jump on. They're definitely at one point, especially when they came over. You know, I'm off them now. I'm on to back onto Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay Packers, and then the Seahawks as well.
Mate, you need to be on the Seahawks, okay?
Yeah.
I'm a
How
Seahawks
many
fan.
teams? How many teams have you got? Sorry, that was
No,
like.
there's only one team that I love, but we're sorry. Here we go. But you see, sure. I'm having to rest Barkley because obviously, you know, this year is cursed for everyone, especially him. Unfortunately,
you just knocked down Kobe. You're gonna have to bring him back up. So like that yellow behind it.
Because
I'm a Seattle fan, and so for me, I've been trying to get Dre to convert, because you got Wilson, you got a great history. It's the Pacific West. How can you not like Seattle?
This is the thing. I don't think you meet people that say they don't like Seattle. I think they're great fun to watch. And when they were at Wembley a couple of years ago, they were fantastic. Yeah, you can't not. I don't think many people would root against Seattle. They're not one of those teams that brings much like anti-them feeling. You know, there are some teams that people are like, can never root for them. No way. Seattle is not one of them. And I say that as someone whose team is in the same division as them. And I think without doubt the toughest division in the whole NFL. So I'd prefer it if Seattle weren't as good as they are.
Well, we us Giants, we're in the worst division, and we still can't beat that. Get out of that, unfortunately. So I'll move on. So just lastly, you know, I want to get a hot take from you on your MVP prediction and your Super Bowl. You know, which two teams are going to be in the Super Bowl?
For the Super Bowl, I actually pre-week 1 on Sunday morning, I put a bold statement out on Twitter. And I got a lot of flack back for it. And then with how the first 2 weeks have gone, I feel like it's doing okay for me. And Daniel will appreciate this. I said Super Bowl was going to be, or will be, Seattle, Baltimore. That is my bold prediction. I did say when people were coming back at me slamming me for it, that my safe prediction, if you will, would be Saints Chiefs. But one, where's the fun of that? And two, based on the Saints' performances the last couple of weeks, I feel like Seattle was a better shout. So that was I'm gonna stand by it. My theory is this with sort of bold takes, especially a couple of weeks into the season. You can end up being really smug if they come off. So I'd rather go bold and be extra smug come February than just go for the safe bet and be like, oh yeah, I had that too, like everyone else. But no, I had a good feeling about Russell Wilson this year, and he is playing out of his skin. When it comes to MVP, I think he's definitely an early contender. It's mind-blowing that he's never had a single MVP vote. I think if he keeps up his first 2 week performances, I mean, he's thrown for 9 touchdowns in 2 games. If he keeps that up, then I think he's going to definitely be a contender. But yeah, I mean, it's very early days. But yeah, I'm still sticking by my Seattle Ravens Super Bowl. And if that comes off, then I think Wilson will be the Super Bowl MVP if they win. But regular season MVP, I honestly, week 2, I can't. I just can't.
we got to get. Yeah, you got to give me one. Give me 2 names to choose from.
Okay. Josh Allen, you say? That's not a bad shout, actually.
That's been bold.
I think that's been very bold, but I think, sadly for him, I think the Bills look good this year, but I don't think they're at the level for their quarterback to be MVP. Do you know what I mean? There's that gap. I think Lamar Jackson might do a repeat. I could see him doing 2 in a row.
See, this is why we've got to have Hannah. Hannah's got to come back on, because honestly, it's been a pleasure to have you. And you've proven that all of these people that I have to do these shows with know nowhere near as much as you.
I mean, I do spend half my week doing nothing but watching and talking about American football. But
so Hannah, tell us where they can find the show. Obviously, we spoke about it a little bit earlier.
Oh yes. So every Tuesday, if you want some highlights and a bit of a lighter look at NFL, and we do NFL Overtime every Tuesday with myself and Josh Denzel, who is obviously sort of
Big up, Josh.
Out of this world. Yeah, great guy. So me and Josh every Tuesday. At the moment, we're joined by Rob Ryan as well, 2-time Super Bowl winning coach. Yeah, love Rob. Talk about football all day with Rob. He is a great human. So that's every Tuesday, 9:00. On Sky Sports NFL, which is channel 407. And then also as well, I mean, I'm on Twitter and it's at Hannah J. Wilkes if you want any musings or a fantasy football brand to run on throughout the week.
We'll be expecting to follow now. Definitely, we'll make sure we follow and keep up with you. And please, let's organise for you to come back on in the near future. To do battle with the rest of these guys in the hurry up, that's for sure.
I'd love to. This has been so much fun. Thanks for having me on.
It's been great having you.
Appreciate you. Thank you very much. And then obviously, guys, keep on looking out for all of our sports coverage on Alt Sport and the SportsHeads on Instagram and all the lovely stuff that we actually talk about will all be down there in the links below. But for now, Hannah, appreciate you coming on. Peace.
Thanks, guys.